I'll introduce myself. My name is Josie Harman, and anybody want to take a guess on how old I am? This is always my favorite part. Anybody? Oh. I can turn this way. I'm 28 years old.
Oh, 25. I was going to say 25.
Yeah, some people are like, 19. I'm like, really? 19? I worked so hard to be 28.
That's a good thing.
I know, everybody does tell me that. Right now you're like, no, I like that. I'm 28 years old. I've been married for 5 years already, and I have a 2.5-year-old, and he's my pride and joy, and tests me every single day. For those of you that have children, right? You know, every single day. So I'll tell you a little bit about where I grew up and how I've come to be here where I am today. So I've grown up in the church. I don't know anything else, really. My mom was the pastor in the church. She was the children's pastor, and then once I grew out of children's ministry, and I was like, yes, my mom's not my pastor. I am now in junior high. Next thing you know, my mom becomes my junior high pastor, and that was just awesome. And then once I got out of junior high, I'm like, yes, no, Mom, I am now youth. Then my mom becomes my youth pastor, and then when I become a young adult, what do you know? She becomes my young adult pastor. So every time somebody asks me, oh, who's your youth pastor? Who is your junior high pastor? I just laugh at them and say, it was my mom. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, growing up, my mom was my pastor. So as that was happening, I kind of had my nose up to it, but now that I'm grown and mature, I look back and I know it's all part of God's plan. And she's my best friend, my mentor, and everything else in between. So it was a huge blessing, but when you're young, you don't see that at the time until you get older and more mature, then you realize that your parents are something that is a huge, huge blessing. I have my early childhood education. That's what I went to school for. I felt called to ministry at a very young age. My mom was a pastor. We had a ministry team that traveled doing children's ministry. We've been to Newfoundland, we've been to Montreal, we've been to lots of places in Canada. So that was kind of my childhood. Children's ministry has always kind of been around. I knew ministry was something I wanted to do, but my parents really encouraged me to have something else under my belt before I went into ministry, just as a backup. You never know where God will lead you, and they didn't want me to be stuck. So I had my early childhood education. I worked in a daycare for about 8 months and got my first call from a church saying they wanted me to come and be their children's pastor at Whitby Christian Assembly in Whitby. I was there for 5 years. That's where I met my husband and got a lot of experience there. I experienced pretty much everything from my pastor leaving because of a moral failure to any other issues that happens in the church, negative and positive. So in those 5 years, God brought me through a whole bunch of things, and again, blessings, right? Sometimes they're in disguise, and sometimes you know it's a blessing that's happening. So after those 5 years, God called my husband and I to church plant. So we've just celebrated and finished our 2nd year of church planting in North Pickering. We meet in a high school, and we average between 60 and 65 people each Sunday. We go into the school, we have a big trailer, we load everything out, set everything up, tear everything down, load it back into the trailer until the next following week. So that's definitely been an emotional roller coaster. My husband always says, if you're thinking of planting a church, don't do it. But it's definitely something we feel God has called us to, and I'm proud of my husband, and I'm excited to see what God's going to do in our church. It's called New Hope Church, and we call it New Hope for a reason, because we believe that the people surrounding that church is going to find new hope in Jesus Christ. So I'm excited to be here today. Right now I work full-time at a Montessori school in Whitby. I teach the preschoolers in the morning, and then in the afternoons I do their drama and dance program throughout the school. So I have a huge passion for drama and dance. That's kind of something, if I go back into school, I would love to do more on the dance and drama and theater side. That's one of my favorite things to do. And when I was at Whitby Christian Assembly, they built a brand new building and it had a huge auditorium with lighting and curtains and all the things you can imagine that would bring theater and drama into action. So I got a lot of time in there to explore and to experience drama and with kids involved. So that's why I'm here today. If you teach every Sunday and you sometimes think to yourself, ugh, are these kids tired of hearing my voice? Because I'm tired of hearing my own voice. I wish there was someone else that could come alongside me that I could do this with. And that's why I'm here today, because I believe that you're never too small to be used by God, and you're never too old to be used by God. So we're going to start off. You have a handout there. If you don't have a handout, if you came in a little bit later, right here, right? Anybody else that needs a handout? I'll leave them here in case anyone else comes in. Now, I love to be interactive, so if you have any questions throughout this workshop, please don't hesitate. Put up your hand, ask away. If you have any comments or ideas, or you've had a ministry team before and you're looking for new ideas, or you've done it before and you have an idea for a question somebody has asked, please don't hesitate to step in. We're all in this together, is what I like to say, and nobody knows more than anybody, right? Everybody has different ideas and different things that they can hand to someone else. So please don't hesitate to jump in. So here is me back when I was young, and one of our ministry teams with my mom. This is one of the teams that we traveled with. This is when I took on the dance and drama part of this team. My very first time being able to choreograph things, do the dramas, and being in charge of that. So this was my very first team that I helped lead with my mom. Before I was finished school, before I had my own ministry as well. Right. How do you know, or how do I know that you need a ministry team? These are 4 things that if you have any of these, I encourage you to think about and pray about having a ministry team. Number 1, you have a passion and a desire to disciple and pour into the next generation, which already, I'm sure, is every single one of you that are sitting here today. Number 2, you enjoy one of these: drama, dance, worship, puppets, or so many more that you can add into there. Number 3, you feel you could use something to kick it up a notch. And number 4, you're tired of always teaching. If this is you under any one of those, then a ministry team is for you. How to start and choose your ministry team. When I was at Whitby Christian Assembly, my lead pastor came to me and said, Josie, Christmas is coming, it's only 2 months away, and I want there to be a big children's production. I want to open this up to the community. I want community kids to come, and so I want you to put on some kind of a performance or a show, something just for kids. So in my mind, I can't do this alone. For an hour and a half, it can't just be me. So I knew I needed to add some friends on stage with me, and right away I started looking for a team. So everybody has, welcome my friend, hi. Everybody has children in their ministry that you know just have that something, right? Can someone think of someone in their ministry that can think of a child that says, yep, they like to be center of attention, they like to talk out, they're dramatic, they have just that spunk. Everybody has that few or that one in their ministry. That's a good place to start, to channel that energy and teach them to use it for something awesome. So a few things for when I was choosing my ministry team, and we called our ministry team No Doubt. There was a few things that they had to have and follow in order to be a part of my team. So again, it doesn't have to be like this for you. You can change it that best fits your ministry. So one of the things was they had to be a part of our children's ministry or a leader in the kids' ministry in the church. They had to be a familiar face. Number 2 was they had to be able and commit to attending practices 1 day a week for at least, or at the most, 2 hours. Number 3, the parents had to approve and had to also commit. And number 4, which definitely should actually be number 1, is they needed to love Jesus with all their heart. So the ages I liked to stick to and look for to be part of this ministry team was grades 4 to about high school. Once you get to high school students, you got to be careful of sports and other activities that they like to do, and of course sometimes drama comes with that. But I've had teams that were just high school students, and I've had teams that range from grade 4 right up to that. Any questions? Yes? No? Any comments? Anybody want to add something? No? Awesome. You guys you're so quiet.
I wanted to find out, you mentioned about from grade 4 to high school
Yes.
for choosing your team.
Yeah.
So, but this is, we're focusing on the children's ministry, so the high school students, they just become part of the team to
Yeah.
help.
Exactly. So some of them, what I love too is I had a high school student on my team that also had a huge passion for dance. So as I'm doing this and choreographing and teaching them to do skits and puppets and dances and that kind of thing that you could incorporate into your children's ministry, I was also training and helping her for 1 day to take over that job from me. Right? So she had a passion for dance, so I wanted her to use that as well. So I was training her and equipping her to soon take over that. So that's a pro of having high school students. And I really believe that the younger students need to have somebody to look up to. And I think that's a huge and awesome opportunity for them to have someone to look up to, and for the high school students to realize what kind of an opportunity they have on being that to them. Great question, yeah?
Kind of question, comment, or whatever. So in some ways, what you're talking here about a ministry team, it could be actually project-based.
Yes.
Kind of like what you did for a Christmas
Exactly.
production or something,
Yeah,
or say a summer camp, or
Exactly.
a March break camp or
Yeah.
something. It doesn't have to be from like September to June. You might have a ministry team that does
Exactly.
Sunday school all year, but
Exactly.
they could be all different teams.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And we'll talk about that a little bit near the end of after this performance, what can happen, what happens to that team after that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yes, great question. Great question. Anybody else? All right. So after the team is made, you've contacted those students, you've talked to their parents, you want them to be part of your team. Number 1, have a date to aim for to perform. That's always a good place to start. Because sometimes if you don't, then you don't really know, they don't really have a goal of where you're reaching, and sometimes things can get spread out longer and longer. The kids can start being like, why am I here if we do all this practicing? It's going nowhere. So it's really good to have somewhere to aim for so that they work really hard. Not that they won't anyway, but that you have somewhere where you're going with this. Choose a day to practice once a week. I find that really important. Practice makes perfect is what I like to say. Even though it's not about being perfect, it's about excellence. But I like to say practice makes perfect. So I chose Thursdays was the day that I chose, and it was from 5 till about 6:30, 6:45, 7 o'clock. Thursday nights was also our youth night at the church, so it just made sense for the high school students to come early, practice, and then go right to youth. It also helped the youth pastor, who is my husband, get more youth out in there. Because sometimes they have excuses why they're not at youth. So it gives them kind of, oh, I can get there early, we have the practice, and they can go right into youth. So that made sense. It might not make sense for your ministry, maybe Sunday afternoons or Sunday evenings, whatever works the best for you and your team, whatever works. So Thursday was that for me. And we worked again for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on their attention span that night. If it was sometimes nights were hyper, and it was like, okay, we're we're only going to get like an hour in, and then they've had enough. So it all depends on that. What we also do at our very first practice is we discuss as a team who our team is going to be. So this summer, I traveled a lot around just Ontario this summer, didn't go too far. And so I had a brand new team, and the team that I had actually wasn't all in my church, because I'm at a small church right now. I don't have a lot of grades 4 to high school right now in my church, so I needed to look around. And because of what my mom does and having lots of chances to be able to speak at conferences like this, I knew a lot of young people that was interested in something like this, and people that I already know. So I called them and brought them together and said, hey, do you guys mind? There's 2 places I want to go this summer to minister. Can you be my team? And after parents said yes and they said yes, we had our first practice, and this is one of the first things we do, is I let them decide who they want to be as a team, and I tell them that they're not allowed to decide who they want to be as a team if they can't be that outside of when they're all together. It has to be something that when they're at school or if they're with other friends or at their church, they're still living out what the team is. Because once you go to one place and children see you, and if they see you outside of that, they're going to want to see the same thing they saw on stage. So I make sure that it's super important that what they do on this, or what they decide to do on this, is something that they want to live out in all areas of their life. So this is always really fun. We do a devotional and we pray. Yes?
Can you read out some of those?
Yes.
It's kind of hard to see them from back
Of
here.
course, yeah. So some of the things that they decided is, number one, they wanted to be honest. What they say they would do, they want to be able to do that, and especially within the team, they want to be honest with each other, they want to be honest with me and with their parents. Number 2 was to be positive. There was one little girl on my team who she was one of those kids that always found something that either wasn't cool enough or wasn't fun enough as part of that. And so it was her who said, I think we should be positive. And the fact that she said that, I was like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to address that one right off the bat. So that was cool, so being positive. And I said to her that it's really important that that's part of that, especially when we're traveling, because sometimes, especially the younger the kids are, if they don't 100% grasp of what it means to serve, that when they get there and they see where they're staying, it's like, oh my goodness, this is where we have to stay. Where's our hotel? So being positive was something that we really stuck to, that no matter where they put us, it wasn't about us. We're serving them. So number 3 was to be energetic. And that was a super good one, because when you're doing ministry and you're on the road, you get tired so fast. So it's good to always be energetic. Number 4 was to be flexible. Not like flexible, but flexible if schedules change or if things have to change in songs because somebody is sick and can't be there for that song, but to be flexible. Number 5, lovely. Number 6, to be examples. 7 was to be creative, to be prepared, drama-free, praise the Lord that they said that one. Godlike and godly, which kind of go together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So our normal practice routine. So I'm going to tell you kind of what our practice looks like. You may like this idea, you may switch it up a bit, you may have your own idea. Perfectly awesome. So what happens when they come in, I give them a few moments to get ready, to take their coats off, make sure they have comfy stuff on, and proper shoes to dance with. We don't want anybody getting hurt. A few moments to chat with each other about the week and if anything is new, and then we get right into our practice. So I always start with about a 30-minute devotional and prayer time. That's your time that you get to disciple and pour into these young ones. That was my favorite time. Sometimes it went longer, and I was okay with that, because I believe that God's going to do something in that small group. So we do that. And then we have about an hour and a half, an hour, with choreographing and practicing any skits that we need, or if some of them are part of an object lesson, we go over that. And so I usually keep it to 2 weeks, so 2 practices for 1 song. So if you're doing a dance or if you're doing a drama, I usually give that about 2 weeks, and then go right on to the next one. And then once you've finished all the ones that you wanted to do, have about 2 practices of just going over every single one, over and over and over again. Any questions? Now these ministry teams don't have to be dance and drama and puppets or anything like that. If you have a passion for something else, use that. Maybe you have a ministry team and you like to do crocheting and you like to give crochet items to missions. Like, you can have a ministry team that way. I'm sure there is students out there that would love to learn how to do that. Or maybe you're into computers and doing the PowerPoint and that kind of thing. You can build a ministry team in that too. That helps in the adult service and the kids services, wherever that may look like. So after all those practices, you have the performance. It went over great. Your students had a fun time. The kids that you ministered to or adults that you ministered to had a great time. It's over. Now what? What do we do? Stay connected with them. If they want to continue and do this again and work throughout the whole year, great. If not, stay connected with them. I remember my most favorite Sunday school teacher of all time. I was grades 5 and 6, so she taught me for 2 years, and she was my favorite Sunday school teacher. And even after I was done in her Sunday school, she searched us out on Sunday mornings at different times to say, hey, how are you? And high-five us, laugh with us about something that happened. And even when we were in university, I remember one of my best friends who went away and out of the city to university, she sent her care packages. That meant so much to us. Once the years went on, we actually kind of lost connection on a regular basis, but I still invited her to my wedding. And I still saw her there in almost the front row watching me say I do to a lifelong decision. And that meant more to me than absolutely anything. I was so happy she was there. So stay connected. You never know what that's going to do. You can use this ministry team on a Sunday morning for skits. You can use them for crowd control, so if you need, especially those high school students, if they're not involved in your children's ministry already, get them involved. It's a way to reel them in. For crowd control, if you have a bigger Sunday morning, you can use them to help you pick children for games, because there's nothing worse than saying, who wants to play a game? And then you look out there and there's like all these beautiful faces looking at you. How do you pick? I know, get someone else to pick for you. So you can have them to do that hard work for you. And then when I had grade 6s, when I was children's pastor at Whitby, there was these grade 6 boys that drove me absolutely bonkers. Every single Sunday, they were sat in the back row, and they were too cool for school, too cool for anything. And of course, the kids notice how cool they are, so they want to sit kind of close in back of them and start fooling around and watching what they're doing and wanting to do the same thing. So these kids drove me absolutely bonkers. And one Wednesday night, I was sitting there, we have our Wednesday night program, and I was watching them, and my blood was just boiling, so I was like, what am I going to do with them? And God spoke to me and said, instead of talking bad, let's give them, a job. And I'm like, okay, God, really? You want to give these kids an important job? Like, come on, they're just going to fool around or be silly. And he was like, no, trust me, give them a job. And so I went to them one Sunday morning, and I said, hey, I have a question for you boys. And they looked at me. And I'm like, you guys are pretty cool dudes. And they're like, yeah, we're pretty cool dudes. I'm like, how would you like to help me with sound and PowerPoint? And they just looked at me like, really? I was like, yeah. I told them, I see that you're getting a little bit too old for kids' church. And the fact that I said that to them was like, they sat up straight and they're like, oh, she notices. She noticed us. And so they were like, yeah, totally. So from that moment on, I had some youth that did sound and PowerPoint, but each week I gave one of those youth one of those boys to lead. And I really believe that that's going to go on. That once they know all that's going on in there, once they get to youth and they need a spot to fit in, that's where they're going to go first, and they're going to stay connected to youth. Once they're finished youth and they're a young adult and they're looking where they can fit in the adult service, in the adult world, the first spot they're going to go is where? Sound and media. So God just spoke to me there, and I fully believe that if you have anybody in your ministry that's driving you crazy, those grade 6ers that think they're too cool for school, give them an opportunity to serve. Who doesn't want to serve in the church? When you feel connected, you want to stay, right? Any questions? So this is my very first team, and this was after we did our very first performance on the Christmas thing for the children. We did like a 90s diner kind of theme, and then that following summer when we did day camp, our VBS, they were the ministry team that helped with the songs, that helped at different stations. If we needed somebody to run somewhere and get us something, they were our go-to. So they were kind of our students for the week that we got to disciple and pour into. So this is the very first team, and all of them now are still in the church, still serving. I see some of them on a regular basis, some of them not. One of them is kind of into my little sister, so we won't go there. But so I still see him on a regular basis, and we still talk about the good times that we had as part of No Doubt. This was one of the last Christmas productions that we did at the church. We did like a neon bright. That was when what's the guy with the big curly hair and he did the Party Rockin'? That song? I don't know his name. Anyway, that's when he was popular. So I decided to do a kind of a thing like that kids would know and realize, hey. So we did a bright party, I guess, for Christmas and talked about the light of the world. And so that's that. And then this was one of our, so this was probably the biggest team I had. There was 11. I don't know if there's 11 up there, but the biggest team I had was 11 students. So I had about 5 grade 6 and under and 5 high school students on the team. And then, of course, myself as being 11. So that's us advancing on our VBS, our day camp. And then this was one of the last ones I did as well. So I think there's 1, 2, 3, 10 of us. Oh, because the 11 was sick. But that was one of my last ones. I was actually pregnant in that picture with Judah. So that's that. Building a ministry team. Best thing to have. I love pouring into them and having that quiet time with the young ones. So that's that. Any questions, answers? We're really early. Any comments? Has anybody had one before? Anybody worked with children to do a drama or a dance or something for their Sunday service? Yeah.
Well, I haven't done that before, but I'm wondering if you're not really strong in like dance and doing skits, like do you have any resources that you draw on just to kind of like help you?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find so many good, if you just type in like church dramas or to music, you get a whole bunch of them, and that's a great place to start and get ideas. And you can use that idea to do something for your church to start off with. Yeah?
Yeah, I do Christmas musicals every year.
Awesome.
So we're actually getting ready for one.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. We do have classroom time,
Yeah.
but there are times as we prepare for the musical, and because we don't come during the week for any practices, I would incorporate like one Sunday for full practice, which is going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and the kids are always looking forward to the musicals and to be part of the program. But I'm just listening to you and I'm thinking in terms of like continuity, and of course they're connected because they're part of Kids Zone.
Yeah, yeah.
But also to think of, having a commitment, doing some kind of commitment for them, that they will be able to do that. And of course, one thing we don't do, which I think you mentioned, is our junior high, the grade 6.
Yep.
Once they get to grade 6, they move on to junior high.
Yeah.
And of course, they're big people. They
Of
don't want to be in
course,
Kids Zone musical anymore. They
Yeah.
pass that stage. And depending on what musical it is, there are some of them that have incorporated the youth and even the church and did an intergenerational one.
Yeah.
This one is more Kids Zone. So I'm just thinking that the kids who are in junior high, how I can get, keep them that momentum continuing rather than just graduating and moving on and not being part of, like including them to be a team.
Do it, for sure, because there's characters and stuff that can be played, especially if you know some that are into drama, It's another way to connect them to the church.
So far, it's only my son that's in grade 6 that's doing it because he wants to rap. He
Oh!
wants to be cool rapping. If it's a rap part, yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we, for our Christmas productions, we did that too. So there was two. There was one that No Doubt did, and then there was one that the whole children's ministry did. And we practiced Sunday nights for about an hour and 20 minutes. So that's good. And another thing to add to if you aren't into any of the dance and the drama and that kind of thing, look at your high school students. Maybe you know of someone that's really into that. Give them that opportunity to, hey, I have this song that I really want the kids to do. Do you think you can choreograph that or put a drama to that? I know you're really good at that. And watch what happens when you give them that opportunity to shine, right? Because sometimes you have, I've heard a lot that there's a lot of high school students that you ask, like, why aren't you coming to youth? Or, why aren't you coming to church? And they say, like, well, I have drama or I have this, and we don't have that at church, right? So give them something that they love and bring it into the church world. Why not? When I was in grade 9, I took dance for most of my life growing up, from the grade 3 until about grade 9. And my mom said to me, going into grade 9, when I was like, oh, did you sign me up for dance yet? She sat me down and said, Josie, I'm really not liking what dance is becoming, what the moves that they're making you do, the outfits that you have to wear when you do your performances. I don't really think this is a place where, a Christian girl should be. And in that moment, I stood up and I said, Mom, if I can't do something I love because I love Jesus, then I don't want anything to do with it. And I walked away from God for my whole high school time. The summer going in to grade 12, God really spoke to me. He said, I gave you that passion for a reason. I gave you that desire in your heart for a reason. Not to go and do it on the stage and dress in things that you shouldn't, but to bring it into the church. Dance because you love me. And in that same year, the stuff blew up at a church we were at with the senior pastor. He ended up leaving, and it was a huge surprise to the church and very sad, which led my mom having to resign her job. And so I was very confused and very angry at the time, but God led me to the Casting Crown song, Who Am I? And he gave me, and I remember lying on my bed, listening to the song, just weeping, with my eyes closed, and God gave me a whole dance to that song. And on my mom's last Sunday, I danced that song, and I said, the church doesn't make me who I am. God makes me who I am. So I believe that the desires and passions God has put in your heart is for a reason. So why not share it with the church? Right? Awesome. Anything else? We have about 20 more minutes. You're welcome. Any comments? Questions?
Can you do that dance for us?
Good one. That was years ago. I don't even know if I could remember it. Actually, I probably could. Yes.
How do you get the kids to commit to that, though?
Sure. So thank you for reminding me. I was going to share this when we were having this conversation. What I did is I wrote up a commitment letter or chart that both the child and the parent had to sign. If the parent is committed, the child guaranteed is going to be there. Even though you don't, the parents will be like, you gotta go, you have practice, even if you don't want to, you have to get there. So I spoke to the parents first before I even told the child about it. I went to the parent and said, hey, I see something in your child. Here's what I'm doing. I want to start a children's ministry team for day camp or whatever, Christmas. And I really want your child to be a part of it. Here are the 4 things. List your top 4 things, like what I said. If they wanted to be a part of the team, there was 4 things that they needed to have. These are the 4 things that they need to commit to. Do you think that's something you yourself as a parent and your child could commit to? If they say, yep, for sure, awesome. Go ask the child. This is what I'm doing. These are what you have to commit to. Do you think you'd be able to do this? And if they say yes, there you go. If they say, I don't know, I have to think about it, then leave that. They'll go home and talk to mom and dad. I've had some that just said no. They were either too shy or just didn't feel it was right. And that's okay, right? God has a plan for your team. He knows who's going to be on your team. It's not a coincidence when they're on your team. There's a reason God has put them there, right? So if they say no, then you just not the one then, move on to the next. So I've never had an issue with the commitment thing. Never. They were always there, ready to go. They take it as something special, like, oh, she chose me for this. So I've never had, doing it that way, never had an issue with that at all.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yes.
Whenever there's a passion for something within me, my heartstrings seem to be going miles a minute.
Yeah.
So please excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
I like to dance,
Awesome.
but I grew up in a Roman Catholic church
Okay.
with the guitar, the drum, tambourine,
Yeah.
and that was all sorts of music. So that is embedded in me. Of course, in the Anglican churches, the organ
Yeah.
and the priest said, well, he plays the guitar, plus, you know. And I always have my little tambourine, of which I asked before, is it okay if I can play my little tambourine? And he said, sure, by all means, he's okay with that. Of course, I want to get drums too, but you know.
Yeah.
One step at a time. So I would have my tambourine and I'm dancing in the back, but every time in the Anglican church, maybe you don't know, you look in the back and of course I'm dancing with my tambourine and it's like, I see lots of smiles. Nobody dances, nobody even, you know, and I feel very awkward. You go to a Pentecostal church and,
That's where I'm from.
you know,
Yeah.
and so how do you address that? Because it's such a beautiful thing. David danced for crying out loud. How are these things being forgotten?
Well, you know, some, like I
Joy,
said, there's
yeah.
God gives different people different desires of their heart. So just
Yeah.
because they don't feel comfortable dancing out
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
doesn't make them, you know, oh, what's wrong with them?
Well,
You're the lucky special one that gets to be the one that people look at and get inspired to worship.
yeah, and it's like the joy of the Lord is your strength. How can you deny it? You know, but this is just me
Yep.
and being joyous. But it seems as though I'm interrupting the congregation.
Well, I pray that that's going to be contagious.
Exactly. Yeah. It's part of our culture too. It's
Yeah.
a Canadian thing. Because
Yeah,
I
I
come
think
from a
so, too.
Pentecostal church and we have such a hard time getting people to dance.
Yeah, even still, right?
It's-
Even the
yeah.
clapping, it's
We-
like,
we
man,
have
like,
freedom
you don't even really have to miss.
We have, our sanctuary is like a gymnasium. It's huge and we have like 30-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
So we have no limitations that way and everybody stands as soldier. Except for me. So just dance around them.
So
But
of course-
it's a spirit, I think it's a spiritual thing in
Yeah.
Canada.
And of course I have problems with my ankle. Going up and down the stairs, it's like, ouch, ouch, what is this? But when I start to dance, I have no pain.
So keep going.
And you would see me dancing, it's unbelievable.
Keep
I
going.
believe it, yeah.
And
And
I
I'm
know
afraid
I'm
that
gonna
that's
break free.
contagious.
Well,
Because that's something very special.
Yeah, and to take away my shyness in this kind of a congregation that is, you know, I become a drama queen over my job. And I said, sorry to be a drama queen, but it goes together.
Well, here's your time. You can
Oh.
teach that and instill that in the next generation.
And you know what, try to work with the children.
Yeah.
Because you know what, they don't have that limitation yet.
Yeah.
Give the children a boundary. I do it all the time.
We've
I
done
have two little
flags,
boys. Yeah.
flags to slow songs and
Yeah.
make it a worship
Yeah.
thing, because that's what dance is. It's a type
Yeah.
of worship, right?
And you have to introduce things slowly though, because
Yeah.
our pastor doesn't like flagging.
You gotta do
So
different,
little
you
bit,
know your
little
church,
bit.
right?
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
church.
yeah. And work with what you've got, but
Yeah.
use the limit, or the freedom that
Yeah.
you do have.
And of course, be smart about it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things with flagging is that, especially if all the children are given a flag, people start getting hit on the head.
Yeah, well, we choreographed the dance,
Yeah, that's
right? So it was
that's-
like a specific
Yeah.
thing, but yeah. You had your,
Sorry, I have a regular work, but I do help with the children's ministry.
Sure.
So I'm wondering, what is the best time to practice with them?
Sure, what age group were you thinking?
You said grade 4 to
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, would you give us an idea, like, when is the best times, what are the days, and
Sure.
what usually works with them? What kind of a schedule will work for them?
Yeah, so it depends on, again, your church. Like I did it on Thursday nights, mainly keeping the high school students in mind. So they came Thursday, we practiced for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then right after it was youth. So they were already going to be there for youth anyway, so I figured that was a great time for them. But maybe Sunday nights are your best time for them. Maybe you have Sunday night services and there's never usually something for kids and you wanted to do it then and obviously ask your pastor and make sure that's okay first. But maybe that's a time that you can do it Sunday nights. Parents are there, the kids are there. Why not do it that night? Or maybe you have a midweek program that you can incorporate it into your midweek program. I mean, sky's the limit. Whatever you think works best for your church. Maybe it's a Tuesday night or a Monday night or a Saturday morning, whatever works best for your church and the families you have there. Yeah.
We were having trouble keeping the children interested in church. And we started a drumming group.
Oh, very cool.
We got some bongo drums, and it started out very gently, like,
Of course, yeah.
you know, this is
Of course.
am I allowed to do this in the Presbyterian church?
Yeah.
But then they got more comfortable with it. We got more drums, and now the kids actually do a whole service 3 times a year and incorporate that drum music
That's
into it.
awesome.
And they love it. They love it. They hardly ever come out any other Sundays, but those ones they
That's
do.
awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So again, if for the practice for that, if you do it on a night where you want them to come out to,
Yeah.
it's a way to get them in, right? When they're connected and they're serving somewhere, it's a way to get them to church, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Why didn't I think of drumming? Very cool.
Yeah, any kid can beat a drum, like, and the congregation is very forgiving if they're off key and they're not quite going to it.
Well, my son is 2.5, and as soon as church is over, he knows that when we arrive there in the morning, he can't go up because the worship team is practicing. But as soon as kids' stuff is done and we go and get him, he like runs past us and goes right to the drummer and like sits there and drums. So we were just actually at the drummer's 22nd birthday party last night, and so Judah right away when he came up and we said surprise, like, oh, the connection they have, and I'm really praying that that's something God's going to use. And I tell the drummer that every time. I'm like, you can't go anywhere because my son was up to you. One day he's going to take your job. Yeah.
Sorry, one more question. So you have a lot of things on stage, decoration and so on.
Yeah.
Do the kids help with that, or do you have
Oh,
another
yeah.
group of volunteers that do that?
Nope, they do everything from the setup to the tear down. That's part of their commitment for the performance too, is I give them a certain time that they have to be there. So let's say we perform at 7. So for this performance, it was a Sunday night, so we had Sunday service, so we finished at about 12:30-ish. And so they could go and get lunch and they needed to be back for 2:30. And from 2:30 until let's say 9 o'clock when we finished, they were there. We prayed, we set up, we then got dressed, and if they needed makeup for any of the skits or anything we did all that then. But yeah, they were responsible from set up right till tear down. That's part of being part of the whole team. Yeah.
Do you have any other ideas? We have some grade 6 boys.
Okay.
We've tried PowerPoint, we've tried sound,
Okay.
and they don't take it seriously. The commitment's not there. My
Okay.
husband is one of the pastors, and he's in charge of sound, and he'll be going to do something. He's also kind of the assistant to the senior pastor.
Okay.
So he's running around doing other stuff,
Yeah.
leaves these boys in charge, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and there's feedback going on. Like, it doesn't, they're not serious enough, and they're not,
Have you tried splitting them up? Like, do they do it together?
no, they don't do that.
Have you tried putting them in a classroom with a teacher?
Yeah, that's not working very well
Okay.
either.
Have you tried sitting up? No, I'm just.
And dare I tell you that they're both pastors' children.
It's those PKs, of course. Have you talked to their parents?
We had 9 PKs in a church of 40. So we have a real jerk there in the children's ministry because they already all are like extra
Like, yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard.
No, for sure. Wow. Have you talked to their parents about the things that they're into, or talked to them about the things that they're into?
relationship with all of them, and one-on-one, they're awesome.
Yep.
But,
Are any of them musical?
well, yeah, the one in grade 6, Eric, he's our drummer.
Okay. So
He's a
that's,
phenomenal drummer.
and
He's
grade
10.
six. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's 11 actually.
So have you thought of maybe putting him, like, hey, how do you feel about doing a drumming workshop on a
Oh, my
Sunday?
sons would.
Right? And so giving him that opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to give you 2 kids. Obviously, he'll need an adult there with them to kind of do some crowd control and help, but give him the opportunity to be a leader. Because as soon as you put them in that,
Yeah, we've tried some leadership things, but it hasn't.
see,
Totally.
find out what they're into and what they like, and see what happens.
Are
Once you
you
show
connected
them
with that sports thing, or no?
what sports thing.
Right outside here, there's a sports camp thing.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
but that sounds fun.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of that.
Yeah, I know.
You've tried your idea about the sound and all of that.
Yeah.
I'm doing the PowerPoint now because
Okay.
I'm not keeping
Yeah.
up with the slides and,
Okay.
the words are not matching.
Of course. So again, find out what they're into, because as soon as you find what they're into and you start talking to them about them, watch everything in them just change from attitude to, right, get into their world and find out.
Sorry, I have one more question
Sure.
for the logistics part,
Yeah.
because that's what's in my head.
Okay,
So, something like that,
Yeah.
like on the picture, what is the budget for that? Like, you know how children's ministry, we run under very small budget?
yeah.
So I'm wondering, how do you do that? Do you do fundraising for that? You get
So-
donations? How does that work?
The church, Whitby Christian Assembly that I was at, was a pretty big church where I basically didn't have a budget. Like sky was kind of the limit. But this, I I know, but don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this. I promise. This probably cost me around $5,000 to the $8,000 round to do that. And that's not, obviously, if you need lighting or if that's not including that, because where we performed had all that already. So that's we performed in front of about 350 kids, and they all went home with some kind of either a stocking, or that year they each went home with a stuffed animal like that turned into a pillow, so it like unvelcroed. So it depends on that. Now being a church planter, we have about 60, 65 people on an average Sunday, and my budget is basically like $1. You have $1 for the whole year. Awesome. And so that's what makes things like this so awesome, because I'm sure you have other churches that you have someone that you've connected with, or that you know, or even your children's pastor might know. And if you go to them and say, hey, I'm looking for like a blue light to do glow in the dark, I guarantee you could maybe borrow that from someone, or you can rent them really cheap from Long McQuaid.
Do you have a website?
Do I have a website?
Yeah.
Know that I have
The
Facebook.
ministry has, because I think we need that churches, like for example, right now, we pull out all the costumes for Christmas that we are
Yeah.
going to use for Christmas, and I can see that there are stuff that we won't use.
Sure.
And it's keeping a space in our storage room.
Yeah.
So, but it's so cute and nice,
Yeah.
and people can use it.
Yeah.
But how we pass the word to another church that might need it, that's why I asked if you had a website, you can include that, but.
I don't have a website for that, but that's a great idea to bring up to maybe who needs up.
Because the problem with churches sometimes is that the storage rooms sometimes get so packed with all these events and.
Yeah. No, it's true. You never
And-
know.
And especially because we do have to care about the environment too. That's a strong critique coming from members of the church who are going green.
Of course.
And they wonder why would the children do that? They don't realize how much
Hey, I teach at a Montessori
garbage
school,
they
so
are
it's
creating and so on
understand
and so on, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Get to know people around you. If not, again, Pinterest is like one of the best things to look at. So if you need an idea for something, a cheap way to do something, Pinterest is like my best friend right now. I'm always on Pinterest, from house ideas, organizing ideas, birthday party ideas, children's ministry ideas, school stuff ideas, everything. It's a good tool to use. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, are you also wondering about maybe getting those resources out there, so try Kijiji costumes?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. If you need something, it's true. Yeah.
And even other items, if you need scrap ideas or
Exactly.
whatever.
And go to your
you can
church
put
too.
it,
You never know. You may have ladies in the church, if you do need costumes, that love to do stuff like that. Go to your church and say, hey, I'm looking for someone to make this costume. You would be so surprised.
Believe me, I'm gonna start doing that
Good.
now
You'll
because
be so
I saw
surprised
what
who
we
steps
need
up.
and I saw what we don't need, and
Yeah,
there's a lot. I'm gonna look especially for the ladies that like sewing.
yeah,
Or-
exactly. Give
Yeah.
them something to do.
Or in a local sewing group,
Yeah,
if
exactly.
they don't have, you know, a project to do or something, you can say, you know, you need to consider helping us out.
Yeah.
This is why I ask you about the stage, because I think that it would be nice to connect also the parents or other people that might not feel strong enough or, you know, with the skills to be performing on stage, but they would
They like the behind the
love,
scenes.
yeah.
So
Decorations.
for example,
Did you try that before, or do you have a team that help you refer from the church?
oh yeah, we have men in the team that love to build stuff, and if I need something for my sets, that's who I go to. They help all the time. So for instance, the stage that we were on for this, they don't have a lot of like different levels. It was just flat, and for this I wanted to have some different things. So if you see here, there's like a box there. You can see a little bit of a box there, and then there was another little box on this side. So and you can see the boys that are actually standing on them. So I had men in the church make me 3 of these boxes, and the whole project maybe cost $100, maybe a little bit less. And then covering them, so they just made it so it was strong enough to stand on, and they just had a frame, and then we put Bristol board, neon Bristol board to cover it was just white, so I wanted it to look bright, so we just did that. And we used it from then on. We tried to use it for everything. I used it on Sunday mornings sometimes as just a table, so if we needed something for a game, I used it for that. If I just needed to place stuff on it, we used it for that. If I needed it just up there to kind of cover some space and just to add some color up there, I used it for that. So I always tried to be careful with what I asked to build so that it could be used more than once. So if I needed to, I could have taken the Bristol board off, put something else on there. If I needed a poster on there for something, you could do that. I've done that. I've had it out in our front foyer with posters on the front of it, and then our VBS stuff set up on top of it. So if they needed registration forms, it was all on there. So I tried to be meaningful with what I wanted. Yeah, it's all about creativity. I pray every day for creativity. I'm like, God, please, creativity. I need creativity. Yeah, but good question. That, I think, was my biggest struggle going from a huge church to church planting. That was like plenty of tears over that one. Did I give up?
Well, I was just gonna say too, I guess like with small churches, because we're a very small church right now too, is planning ahead.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to do something for Christmas, start in January and you can like buy a teddy bear a week or something, and by the time next year
Yeah,
comes
very
along,
true.
you could have
Great
all of the
point.
things that you want, just, you know, dollar store every week.
Great point. And balloons, you can do so much with
Yes,
balloons now,
balloons
and
are
they're
super
cheap. Balloons are cheap, and you can do so much, which is the arches. My husband made me the arches, and I think they cost us maybe $25 each. You buy, you can get at like Home Depot, the Home Depot buckets. You have to buy the cement for them, and then you buy the plumbing tubes that bend.
PVC pipe,
And
yeah.
you do, so it takes 2, and okay. So
Yeah.
it's a super cheap thing to do. It costs maybe $25, then you buy the balloons for them, and you can use it over and over and over again. Different colored balloons makes it look different each year.
Yeah,
Right?
and check out like places like Party City or
Yeah.
that kind of, because you can get like for $10 you can get like hundreds of balloons instead of just 25 for $1.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dollar store is not the cheapest place, so
Yeah,
just
sure.
check your prices.
And they're not the best balloons too, the dollar
No.
store, especially
You wanna
if you
make
want
sure
to do
that
an
they-
arch.
yeah.
If it's for like a day camp where it's going to be up all week,
Yeah.
go cheap, or else you'll be replenishing them like every
Right. And
few
again,
hours.
and again, those things could be bought like kind of weekly for the ministry, and then when you have a big event, you have a big stack of balloons, and then you've got something to work with, and it's not a big expense at one time, right?
Exactly. The one year for our team, I don't know if I have pictures of them, but this was our logo, the No Doubt Ministries logo, and I wanted t-shirts for them all. So I asked parents, would you be willing to pay for t-shirts for us? Like if each child gave $20 to get us t-shirts, that'd be good for the whole year of when we did stuff on stage for the adults or when we traveled and that kind of thing. And the parents were totally, yeah, for sure. I had one parent come to me and say, how many do you need? I'll just buy them all. So they totally believe in what you're doing, right? So never underestimate what your parents will help you with either.
Well, and Michael's, like if you get on their email list, Michael's always, I think every other week, they have a 50% off coupon.
Yeah.
And they have t-shirts.
So
that
you
they
can
sell
download their
there,
app
and
and
you
there's
can-
coupons on there all the time.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
super sales. And
You know,
then
children's
you go
ministry, I'll be like,
for
got it.
$10 a piece,
Got
you
it.
know, different things. And then
Download the app.
Michael's,
Yeah,
they
it's an
have a
app
lot
you
of
can get on your
sales.
phone, yeah.
And they have t-shirts if you're gonna make your own.
Yeah, we've done that too. I did
tie-dye.
iron-on, except the only thing that like I stress out about is that you obviously can't put them in the dryer. And the one time I had a child who did put it in the dryer, and so this is like 2 days before we perform, and I'm like scrounging to have to like find the material I need to make him another one. So that's the only stressful thing is the iron-ons are perfect if it's for like a one-time gig and that's it. But if you want them for the long haul, just do what you can to get parents to help pay for that and go the easy route. Thank you very, very much